a few dozen other industry titans, and two former presidents gathered for an off the record conversation. And one subject that inevitably came up, according to two people familiar with the matter, was the possibility that former President Trump could return to the White House. The gathering of the Business Council, which is an invitation only association of chief executives at the Waldorf Astoria in Dana Point, it wasn't supposed to be about the election. It wasn't supposed to be about that. But some attendees wound up discussing how to protect themselves and their companies if Trump wins the presidency and tries to use the power of the Oval Office against his perceived enemies. That's what these people speaking on conditions of anonymity, this is what they said, as reported by the Post. You see, at one event, former President Bill Clinton warned about the dangers that Trump poses to democracy and the nation, specifically the nation's rule of law, while former President George W. Bush. Now, a lot of people have been wondering, where's George W. been? You've had all these Republicans that have come out in support of Vice President Harris, including former Congresswoman Liz Cheney, former Congressman Adam Kinzinger. There are a number of people saying, well, where's George W. Bush? Where is he? And apparently he was at this meeting with all these billionaires and Titan CEOs. And George W. Bush reportedly expressed concerns about high tariff rates, which some attendees heard as a rebuke of Trump's tariff plans. That's according to a couple people, again, familiar with the conversation. With the White House appearing increasingly up for grabs. We've all been tracking the polls, and our friend Cornell Belcher reminds us, stay off the polar coaster. Stay off the polar coaster. But for those of us that couldn't help but take a ride on the polar coaster, with the White House appearing increasingly up for grabs, and especially as the polls have tightened, numerous billionaires and other leading executives have taken steps in recent months to stay out of the race, even if they had criticized Trump after the Capitol insurrection on January 6th, calling his encouragement of the riot a threat to American democracy. Y'all remember that? Others who previously backed Democrats have stayed silent this election, which some critics and Trump supporters alike have interpreted as a peace offering to the GOP presidential nominee. Make no mistake, this is a moment of truth. It's about seeing where people stand. And it's also about understanding folks' business interests. You see, Trump allies, they hailed what they say are signs of neutrality from billionaires. For example, Amazon founder Jeff Bezos, who owns the Washington Post. Remember, he decided the Post would no longer endorse presidential candidates. He announced this change just sort of suddenly last week. And the Post had an endorsement of Harris in the works. That came just days after Patrick Soon-Shiong, who owns the LA Times, blocked the paper's endorsement of Harris. Well, you wonder why? I thought this was really interesting. Both moves sparked this uproar. Critics said that they reflected concerns about the owner's financial interests. You see, Amazon has billions of dollars in cloud computing contracts with the federal government. And Blue Origin, Jeff Bezos' rocket company, has contracts with the Space Force and with NASA. The owner of the LA Times, Soon-Shiong, a biotech investor, could have future business before federal regulators. And so the Post has said that discussions to cease endorsing in presidential elections was made internally and was a return to prior policy. But Soon-Shiong told the LA Times that he thought picking one candidate over the other would be divisive. This wasn't about that. This was simply about protecting and preserving their business interest. And, again, if your vote didn't matter, if your vote wasn't important, if your vote wouldn't make a difference, folks wouldn't be contorting themselves like pretzels, trying to insulate themselves from the potential retribution or perceived retribution if Trump were to win. Your vote matters. Your vote is important. It is very much so. I am now joined by someone who understands how important your vote is, particularly in the state of Nevada. I'm joined by Ender Austin III. He is with Faith in Action Nevada. How you doing, brother?
I'm fantastic, man. Thank you so much for asking. How about you?
I'm well. Thank you for being here. When we come forward, I want you to give us a hot take in terms of what's afoot on the ground in Nevada. There are a lot of anxious people out there, and I like to think that the best way to redirect that anxiety is by putting your faith in action. Right? My grandmother used to say you got to pray with your hands and pray with your feet. And so I have a feeling that you have some ideas on how we might pray with our feet in the battleground state of Nevada. More with Ender Austin III of Faith in Action Nevada. When we come forward, you are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
A safe place to go loud.
A great place for progressive politics.
KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with 4 things you should know from BIN News. One of Dwayne Wade's most famous moments is now immortalized in bronze. The 8-foot bronze statue depicts Wade reacting after he hit a game-winning three-pointer at the buzzer in a double overtime win over Chicago in 2009. Jury selection for Daniel Penny's NYC subway chokehold trial continues, with challenges due to the 6-week length and $40 daily pay. Penny, a Marine veteran, is charged in the May 2023 choking death of Jordan Neely, a Black homeless man. Quarter pounders will be back on the menu at all McDonald's this week following an E. coli outbreak. The CDC reported there have been 75 E. coli cases confirmed in 13 states. And Diageo is boosting HBCU innovation, celebrating homecoming week with events like the Alumni Bison Ball at Howard University and football classics in Alabama and Louisiana. Since 2021, it's invested nearly $12 million in endowments. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 at BINnews.com.
As Cybersecurity Awareness Month wraps up, remember to update your security issues that identity thieves exploit to steal personal info. And for comprehensive identity theft protection, choose LifeLock. Start your 30-day free trial today at lifelock.com/cybersafety.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
It's a feel-good Monday for the LA sports scene. We start with the Chargers. They improved to 4-3 with a 26-8 win over New Orleans at SoFi. The Chargers defense did not give up a touchdown and held the Saints scoreless in the fourth quarter. The Chargers are at Cleveland next Sunday. The Clippers have won back-to-back road games. After winning Saturday in Denver, they spoiled Golden State's home opener Sunday with a 112-104 win. 23 points, 18 rebounds, and 6 assists for Ivica Zubac. James Harden had 23 points, 11 assists, and was 9 for 9 at the free throw line. The 3-0 Lakers begin a 5-game road trip tonight in Phoenix. Dodgers manager Dave Roberts says Shohei Ohtani will be in the lineup tonight for Game 3 in the World Series against the Yankees. Ohtani suffered a partially dislocated left shoulder in Game 2. Games 3, 4, and 5 are in New York. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, home of the 2024 Climate Justice Campaign. We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Spend an evening with Ambassador Susan E. Rice at Pomona College on Saturday, November 2nd at 7 p.m. for the John A. Payton Distinguished Lectureship. Ambassador Rice is the only person ever to have served as both National Security Advisor and Domestic Policy Advisor. This event is free and open to the public, but tickets are required. Visit pomona.edu/Peyton-ticket to reserve tickets now.
Dr. Renee here. Did you know this time of year is considered peak asthma? If you have asthma and are having difficulty breathing despite medication, it's time to check in with your doctor so you can help avoid landing yourself in the hospital this season. To learn more about managing your asthma, visit www.luma-edu.com. That's LUMA-edu.com. This message is brought to you by Amgen and AstraZeneca.
And that chill in the air means one thing. It's truck season!
Oh, just 5 more minutes.
No snoozing. You've got so much to do. So do it all in a Chevy Colorado or Silverado, including the HD or class-leading 440-mile range of the Silverado EV.
Wait, what? Are you talking?
Yes! Picture it. Work, play, hauling gear, off-roading. A Chevy truck can take whatever you can throw at it, including tailgating in an actual tailgate!
I mean, homecoming is just around the corner. Oh, and showing up in a new truck?
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Get things done and look good doing it.
Okay, I'm up. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Without offering me a ride? That's cold.
It's Chevy truck season. Head to your local Chevy dealer and get 0% financing on all 2024 Silverado pickups when you finance with GM Financial. Chevrolet, together, let's drive.
0% APR for 36 months. Monthly payment is $27.78 for every $1,000 you finance. Example down payment 9.3%. Must finance with GM Financial. Some customers may not qualify. Not available at least in some of the offers. Taking retail delivery by 10/31/24.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where hate meets a scholarly match.
Hey!
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nicordelai Corte, and really delighted to welcome my next guest, who is on the ground in the battleground state of Nevada. Pastor Ender Austin III is with us. Pastor, how you doing?
Well, fantastic, brother. How about you?
I'm doing well. And so give us a sense of what is afoot on the ground and what are the streets saying in Nevada today.
So I'll take it from two angles. I'll take it from one. Well, let me say it like this. What I preached yesterday was the polls were wrong. So there's in Psalms 3, David is talking about the time where he's running from Absalom, his son, who was rebelling against him. And essentially, he starts off the psalm saying, there's so many who are coming against him. And he said, not only are there people coming against him, but he says in the second verse of that song, he says, and then people are saying that there's no help for him. And essentially, in saying there's no help for him, what he's really saying is that the polls or the populace is saying that he's going to lose, right? David, who's a great man of war, who has been victorious over and over again, is now saying that there's no way he can win. And unfortunately, what we're hearing is a lot of people who are trying to bring a narrative that the people in our state know is not true. We're hearing people say that Black folk are doing something that we know is not true. We're hearing people saying that Black folk are succumbing to certain messaging that we know is not true. And so we have to begin to ask ourselves, why is that narrative coming forward? Why are the polls coming out that way? And we know that polls have different reasoning, right? Polls come to make people believe what they're saying, right? My dad would say, he's from a different generation, he would say that people sell wolf tickets because they want to scare you before you even show up to the fight. So some people are selling those polls or those wolf tickets because they want to scare Black folk, and they're believing that their vote does not even matter. They want to make Black folk believe that the race is so far gone that even if they show up to the fight, even if they show up to the polls, that there's no way that that we can be victorious as a people. And then the other side of that is some people are putting forward polls that would say that it's so far the other way that even if you show up, it's a dog pile already. And so we have to really be focused and listen as to what's going on and make sure that we're encouraging people to know that no matter what people are saying about the good, bad, or indifferent, your job is to add your voice to the chorus so that your voice is heard. Because at the end of the day, win, lose, or draw, voting is not the end of democracy. It's just the beginning of democracy. And your job is to make sure that you show up so that when whoever is in office, when they begin to govern, when they look at the numbers of folks who voted, you're counted. And because you're counted, they govern with the understanding that these are the people who are going to be showing up at the next election. And that's how we have to begin to indoctrinate our people to understand that voting is not about how, in fact, that election day happens, but really how they begin to engage with whoever's in office after election day.
And speaking of engaging with folks in office, there are a lot of folks out there that are selling wolf tickets. Former President Trump yesterday at the Madison Square Garden rally that social media is talking about real heavy. He said a lot of things, and he disparaged a lot of groups of people: Jews, Black people, Puerto Ricans. Talk to me about how that is playing on the ground in the battleground state of Nevada.
So after a while, those kind of comments begin to go into the ether, right? The people who are already sold on those comments and who know that that's what is going on in a certain candidate's background, they know that's what it is. And the people who are kind of concerned about it and are kind of like, that's who he is, and they're still going to support him, they know that's on that side. The thing that we have to do is we have to continue to use that as a motivating factor. There are people who have heard it and they don't agree with it. The question is, how do we get it to those folks who are saying that's trash and that's not what I support, but I still haven't made up my mind to actually go out and vote? How do we make sure that they know this is your cousin who's Puerto Rican? You like to vacation in Puerto Rico. This is your family members who live on this island that they're calling trash, right? How do we make sure that we're using it in that way? And we have to make sure that we don't normalize it. In 2016, a really close friend of mine, one of my best friends in the world, he was really ambivalent. He said, this is politics. People always say crazy stuff, until election night when his son was watching the results come in. And he said, Dad, how could somebody vote for somebody like this? He said, man, I owe you an apology because I normalized this, right? I made it seem like this was just politics as usual. And I cannot do that, right? We have to make sure that people cannot resolve that this is normal, that we have to have a righteous indignation about the way that this is playing out in our political discourse, that we're coming back to an era, that's foregone, right? There was a time where it was okay for somebody to come on the radio and say it's going to be some bloodshed in Birmingham tonight. There was a time where that was perfectly socially acceptable. There was a time where the dog whistles that we hear today were a part of our normal discourse. Matter of fact, it's a ballot initiative in Nevada, a couple ballot initiatives that talk about updating language that in the 50s and 60s were perfectly socially acceptable. But now we're saying that we don't want the term, certain terms to be in our state constitution any longer because they no longer are socially acceptable. And by allowing people to pull out these dog whistles, we're now saying if we don't speak out against it, that they are socially acceptable. So as much as it's become a part of this white noise in our discourse, we can't act like it's okay for people to talk about our loved ones of the diaspora, because let's be clear, these folks are still a part of the diaspora. We can't let that just go on.
Yeah. You're right. And there are a number of people who have said, enough with the name calling. We want to hear our candidates sort of talk about issues. Where do they stand as a matter of policy? And so it seems that yesterday at Madison Square Garden, former President Trump decided to do both, engage in sort of name calling and belittling. But he did take some time out to make a policy announcement. I think it's a policy announcement that's an example of him running scared. And I'll talk a little bit about what I mean on the other side of it. Take a listen. So the former president rolling out, policy announcements supporting our nation's family caregivers that we know are the backbone of our care system in this country, and also announcing a support for tax deduction on interest on car loans. What do you make of that? Certainly we know that Vice President Harris has rolled out her Opportunity Economy agenda, which is fairly robust, which includes support for in-home care services that are critical to family caregivers. Putting money on the streets in the form of first-time home buyer, $25,000 first-time home buyer relief, up to $50,000 for entrepreneurs that are launching small businesses, $6,000, for new families, tax deduction there, right? And so, she's really been leaning into support for families and bringing down costs. And then here comes former President Trump saying, yeah, I want to do that too. What do you make of it? Pastor Austin. Pastor Austin, you might be on mute.
I'm talking. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you now.
Yeah. I think there are a lot of people who have been dishonest when they say that they don't know where she stands on policy because her policies have been there for a long time, right? They haven't taken the time to actually research her policies. It's a whole nother conversation about people on the research. But I think there are a lot of stuff that was put out was really performative, right? Like if we're talking about, there's no substance behind those policies. I don't think that none of that stuff has been actually tested to see if it makes any sort of sense to actually go back and say we're not going to do any sort of we're going to forego any taxes on the interest on car loans, right? That I think that's really outside of the norm, right? I think I would love it, right? But I think that some of those policies don't even make sense, right? And are almost impossible to push through. But we also understand what it looks like for the party of a balanced budget to put forth stuff that really puts us in a very precarious place financially as a country. But I think in a larger sense, what we have to really be honest about is just queuing forth a whole bunch of foolishness just for the idea of trying to give red meat to people and trying to pull people into a conversation when you've had several years, right, to put forth policies that would actually build a base. And you haven't done that until now. And so when you try to mix policy with manure, it's kind of difficult for me to accept the policy. So when you put forth in Madison Square Garden, some stuff that we could talk about, but it comes and have to muck through a whole bunch of foolishness that's coming from a lot of different places, from Dr. Phil, Rudy Giuliani, whoever the comedian guy was, right? All those people. How do I then actually get to the policy after I have to deal with all those racist onslaughts? And so it's even difficult to get to the policy, to even critique the policy because of all the racism that is kind of mixed with. But that's a whole nother issue.
Pastor Ender Austin III, not mincing words, over here talking about former President Trump at Madison Square Garden mixing policy with manure. Yeah, you heard that right here. When we come forward, more with Pastor Ender Austin III, who is on the ground in the battleground state of Nevada. We know that there are 3 healthcare issues at stake in this presidential election that are animating voters. We're going to tell you what they are, and we're going to get a sense of how they're playing on the ground in the critical state of Nevada when we come forward. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
The station you turn to when you've had it up to gear with cultural incompetence. KBLA Talk 1580.
Tips to help improve basic steps for building a budget in 2024. Building a budget can help you achieve and reach your financial goals. With a budget, you can keep track of your spending, avoid and get out of debt, limit overspending, pay bills on time, and build solid savings habits. What's the best way to get started? Figure out how much to set aside for expenses like rent, mortgage, bills, groceries, and entertainment. Understanding your past financial habits can help you make the proper adjustments for your budget. Adjusting to a budget can take time as you work to find the right balance, but keep working on it. For more financial health tips, visit chase.com or stop by a local branch. This segment is sponsored by JP Morgan Chase & Company.
From the first day of kindergarten through the day they graduate high school, in California, 38% of students attend a public school that fails to meet minimum health standards. That's why we need Prop 2. Voting yes on Prop 2 will fund urgent repairs at local schools, protect kids from toxic mold, asbestos, and lead, ensure clean drinking water, and repair leaky ceilings and storm damage. Yes on Prop 2. To fix what's actually broken. All funds go to local schools without raising taxes. You heard that right. So join the California NAACP, nurses and teachers, and vote yes on 2. Because all our kids deserve a safe place to learn. Ad paid for by Yes on Prop 2, sponsored by Nonprofit Education, Labor and Business Associations. Ad committee's top funders, California Building Industry Association, California Teachers Association, Coalition for Adequate School Housing.
Order for Jennifer C.
Is this my double shot, double cream, double froth, double pump, double hot, double whip, double sleeve?
Yeah. Can you handle that much caffeine?
Hey, did you know Discover automatically doubles all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year?
Well, I do now.
Seriously, did you know Discover automatically doubles all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year?
Yeah, you just said that.
Did you say I just said that?
Yeah, I'm cutting you off.
Did you say you're cutting me off?
You earn, we match. Unlimited cashback match. See terms at discover.com/credit card.
You can do it all by yourself, baby girl. What's your name? Let me talk to you. Let me buy you a drink.
Spilled your drink? Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up spills quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less than the leading ordinary brand. So you can get back to your night. Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. LA County's new Justice Care and Opportunities Department, or JCOD, is here to support justice-involved individuals and their families. The JCOD Support Center is now taking calls at 1-833-LACJCOD. That's 1-833-522-5263. Available 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., the Support Center is your one-stop shop for re-entry issues and court support. They offer court reminders, connections to local services, transportation assistance for housing, court appearances, and childcare. The JCOD hotline provides personalized help to connect you with services that you need. And don't forget to check out justiceconnect.org for more information. Remember, it's free and available every day at 1-833-522-5263. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
Moments like hearing my cat purr good morning mean a lot to me. But after being diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer, or MBC, which is breast cancer that is spread to other parts of the body, they mean even more. I take Ibrance, palbociclib. Ibrance 125 milligram tablets with an aromatase inhibitor is for adults with HR-positive, HER2-negative MBC as the first hormonal-based therapy. Ask your doctor about Ibrance and visit Ibrance.com. Ibrance may cause low white blood cell counts that may lead to serious infections. Ibrance may cause severe inflammation of the lungs. Both of these can lead to death. Tell your doctor right away if you have new or worsening symptoms, including trouble breathing, shortness of breath, cough, or chest pain. Before taking Ibrance, tell your doctor if you have fever, chills, or other signs of infection, liver or kidney problems, are or plan to become pregnant, or are breastfeeding. Common side effects include low red blood cell and low platelet counts, infections, tiredness, nausea, sore mouth, abnormalities in liver blood tests, diarrhea, hair thinning or loss, vomiting, rash, and loss of appetite.
We knew you'd stick around. This is LA's home for Progressive Talk Radio. Welcome back to KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nicordelai Corte, and this is a perfect opportunity almost a week out from the elections, remind everybody that the outcome of this election impacts real people. Impacts real people. And one of the outcomes that comes out of not just the upcoming U.S. presidential election, but any election, do people have more or less dignity? Are people treated with more or less respect? Do people feel more or less safe? Do people feel more or less seen? These are some of the things that matter, that we all have to live with coming out of any election. I want to play this clip of Sunny Hostin just this morning on The View responding to some of the nonsense that we heard from that Madison Square Garden event put on by the Trump campaign just yesterday. Take a listen to what Sunny Hostin had to say live on The View. Sunny Hostin from The View did not mince words this morning. And it just serves, again, as another reminder that what leading contenders for public office, what they say, what they do, right? It gives folks permission to say and do those things too, right? And to speak of our fellow Americans in Puerto Rico in that way, to talk about Black folks, to talk about Jewish folks, to talk about so many of our fellow Americans in disrespectful terms. It's not okay. But guess what? On November 5th, we all have an opportunity to make our voices heard. And we get to vote. And we get to decide what kind of country we want to live in. And in making that decision about what kind of country we want to live in, one of the big issues is what kind of healthcare do we want to have? As 2024 heads into its final week, the direction of policies affecting the health of millions of Americans is at stake. A recent survey, as reported by NPR, found that 2/3 of Americans say that healthcare should be receiving more attention in the presidential campaign. And there are several crucial health policy choices that the next president's likely to face in their first year. So when it comes to what the future of Medicare's drug price negotiations look like, we know that the Biden-Harris administration scored a historic win, giving Medicare the power to directly negotiate the prices of some of the most expensive prescription drugs. Federal health officials say that the first 10 negotiated prices take effect in 2026, and patients with Medicare will save $7.5 billion altogether. Trump has said, he's not said if he supports repealing the law or whether he would continue to defend it in court. That's a fact. On the question of should Congress extend the Affordable Care Act, enhance subsidies For people who buy their own health insurance on the ACA marketplace, the federal government covers a portion of the monthly health insurance premiums that many people pay. Under the original law, lawmakers capped that assistance to individuals who made up to 400% of the federal poverty level. Today, that's about $125,000 for a family of four. Democrats in Congress removed the income cap in 2021. And VP Harris says that she wants to make these subsidies permanent, costing Washington an estimated $335 billion. Many Republicans point to a report issued by the conservative Paragon Health Institute that found as many as 5 million people misstated their incomes. And I'm just saying, they're not trying to give you more health care. They're trying to claw it away, right? Will medication abortion remain available? You know, we know that nearly 2/3 of abortions in the U.S. are now medication abortions. Vice President Harris, you know, believes that a woman should have a choice over what happens with her body. Full stop. You know, Trump's position, not so much, right? And so these are real life decisions that people have to make. And all of the tough talk and the bluster and the disrespect, it really pulls focus from the issues that really matter to people. And so keep that in mind as you prepare to vote. We'll have to leave it there. My thanks to The Village that helps us produce a more perfect union each and every day. Our executive producer, Tavis Smiley, our sound engineer extraordinaire, Miles Lowe, our show producer, Robert Battles, and podcast publishing guru, Odell Bodie. Remember, don't panic, organize. Do what you can from where you are with what you have. I'm Dr. Nicordelai Corte, and you have been listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580.